Welcome to Holistic Productivity with Miranda Merton, the podcast for Gen X women that blends nostalgic 90s vibes with modern strategies to help you create solid routines, align your goals, and simplify your life. Get ready to make productivity personal, practical, and oh so powerful. Do you remember those mood rings we had back when we were kids? You know, you'd put it on and the stone would change color based on your quote-unquote mood. Well, not really, but that's what we thought. If it turned blue, you were supposedly calm and relaxed, or if it turned black, that meant you were stressed out or just having a bad day. I, for one, would stare at that thing like it was some kind of magical emotion detector, even though I knew it wasn't really telling me my mood, but sometimes it would even change my mood. Like, oh, the mood ring says I'm calm and relaxed, so I guess I must be calm and relaxed, right? But really, it was just reacting to the temperature of my finger. Now, fast forward to today, and instead of relying on a mood ring to tell us how we're feeling, we can actually track our cycles and know exactly when our energy dips or predict when it might dip or spike. It's like getting a real-life version of a mood ring, like the adult version, but tracking it like this actually works. So let's talk about how you can use your body's natural rhythms to get more done and feel better doing it. In episode 2, I talked about energy management, and if you have no idea what I mean, go back and give that a listen. But basically, I discussed working with your daily energy cycle, the ups and the downs, and I briefly mentioned that women actually have a monthly cycle as well. Shocker. It also coincides with your menstrual cycle. So today we're diving into how that works with your productivity. This isn't about just managing symptoms or tracking days. It's also going to be about learning how to align your work, your self-care, your goals with those natural daily and monthly ebbs and flows of your body's natural energy. So I'll be breaking down the 4 phases of the menstrual cycle. That is the menstrual, follicular, ovulatory, and luteal, and how to use each phase and how it can impact your focus, your motivation, and your energy levels. And I know it sounds like a lot. You already have your daily productivity things that you're doing, hacks that you want to do. Maybe you have morning and evening routines that you have to focus on, but this is going to be more of a natural thing. Once you start tracking and you get used to how you feel, I'm going to show you how to layer that with your daily cycle for a complete holistic approach to getting things done without burning out. Now, this episode is going to be a long one, so I advise you to get cozy, get situated, and let's get ready to sync up with your cycle. All right, so we're going to kick things off by talking about the concept of cyclical productivity. We experience natural fluctuations in our energy, our mood, and our focus, and when we're able to predict these fluctuations, we can actually use them to our advantage rather than feeling frustrated when our productivity seems to dip or spike during the day or the week. So let's break this down into the 2 main cycles. Like I said, we have monthly menstrual cycle and then your daily energy cycle. Both of these are going to influence how you feel and perform, but in different ways. First, let's look at the monthly cycle. If you're menstruating, your cycle is going to be divided into 4 distinct phases, and we'll think of these phases as seasons. So just like the seasons of the year, you're going to go through periods of growth and peak activity, then you're going to wind down and rest. And understanding which phase you're in is going to help you make better decisions about where you want to focus your energy. So instead of pushing through a task when you're feeling low and you're frustrated, you can shift that task to a time when you're going to be naturally more motivated and focused. We're going to also layer your daily energy cycle, and this is often referred to as your circadian rhythm, which I've mentioned a few times in a previous episodes, and it's basically your body's natural 24-hour day clock. So if you examine it, you'll notice our workday naturally flows around this clock, and most people experience higher energy levels in the morning, they feel a slump in the afternoon, and then you'll get another smaller peak in the early evening. So by paying attention to these daily fluctuations, you're going to be able to schedule your tasks to match your energy natural highs and lows. So here's how we're going to really put these two cycles together. You're going to create a powerful framework for productivity that's aligned with your body, and you're going to work with your cycles, not against it. So we don't want you on your period working and doing these big mind-blowing activities. You're going to need to be introspective during those times. So that's what we're going to talk about. One of the things that I started doing this year was exploring how to cycle sync. I actually came across someone on Instagram, and I'll put her information down in the show notes because it's a very cool account to follow. And because I noticed that each month I was basically experiencing the same thing, lower energy around my cycle, higher energy during other parts of the month, but I didn't really understand or think about how to track it and why it was happening and when it was happening. So I thought to myself, maybe I can work with this. If I tend to be lower energy during certain times of month, I can probably use that to my advantage and work around those periods instead of trying to think and push forward and do big, heavy work during those times. I also got intrigued by wearable trackers. So at first I got what was called an EV ring, which is it's a wearable ring, kind of like an Aura ring, and it's designed for women, helps tracking your periods and all those things. But I got it, and actually it was very brand new. I think it was probably like the first generation ring. It had just launched. I had to wait months to get this ring, but I ended up sending it back because it wasn't really ready for prime time. I actually just checked a couple days ago. It looks like they've done another firmware update, so it's getting a little better. But for me, it didn't work, so I sent that one back. I got an Ultra Human ring, which I have right now. I love it, and it basically tells me everything I need to know, and it helps me track my period. It connects with other period tracker apps and Apple Health to help track your period, and it tells me exactly which phase I'm in. So I can actually just look at my app for my ring and know that I am in the luteal phase. And what I've noticed, because the ring actually tracks my temperature as well daily, what I've noticed is on day 14 of my cycle, my temperature always spikes up. So I find that really interesting. So even if I didn't have them telling me exactly what phase I'm in, I know that I have just entered the luteal phase because it spikes up every month on the first day of my luteal phase. And it stays high during my luteal phase. And then right before my menstrual cycle starts again, then my temperature drops back down. So it's really fun to watch those. And if you have the ability to get something like that, then I would definitely recommend it. If not, there's a lot of apps out there that you can use, or you can just, track things in your Google Calendar. Whenever the first day of your period pops up, write it on your calendar, and then you can count manually those days as well. So as I mentioned, there are 4 main phases. Each one is going to affect your energy, your focus, and even your mood differently. So we're going to walk through each phase, tell you what's happening in your body, and the types of tasks that are going to be suited for each one. I'll also give you some exercises that you should plan to be doing during these phases that's going to actually work better with what you're going through. So I would love for you to go ahead and take out a piece of paper or a journal right now, open up your calendar, and as I walk you through these phases, write them down and see if you can determine which phase you're currently in. And then I want you to think about, you can go back, you can look at your calendar if you do have it noted. Think about the first day of your last period, and then we're going to work from there. If you don't know the first day of your last period, that's fine. Keep this episode handy or just take down notes. And then when your first day starts, then you can take a look and you'll know when to start this process. So let's start with the menstrual phase. That's going to be your first phase. This is when your period actually begins, and it typically lasts from 3 to 7 days. It's going to be day 1 through 7 of your cycle, and mine always lasts 5 days. My period is very regular. The entire cycle for me is 27 days. My menstrual phase lasts 5 days. During this phase, your hormone levels are going to be at their lowest, which can lead to lower energy levels. So your body is going to be focused on shedding the uterine lining, and it's going to be a time when you feel more introspective and need some rest. For me, I'm definitely wanting to relax during these days, go slow, especially those first 2 days when my period starts. I'm definitely looking in, I'm getting cozy, I'm not doing any heavy exercises. So this is the perfect time for reflective tasks. This is going to be, if we're going back to those seasons, this is your winter phase. Use these days for evaluation and planning. You might want to review your goals or assess what's working and what's not working. You can spend time journaling to clarify your thoughts. It's also going to be a good opportunity to organize or declutter your workspace, doing those light movements. Since your energy is lower, you're going to focus on lighter tasks rather than tackling big projects or making high stake decisions. So, as far as productivity goes during this phase, give yourself permission to slow down and rest. Consider blocking off time in your calendar for fewer meetings and schedule in extra breaks. Even if you're just taking a few minutes to breathe or meditate, it's going to make a big difference for you during this phase. The next phase is the follicular phase. It's typically days 18 through 14, which starts right after your period ends and lasts about a week. So during this phase, your body is preparing for ovulation and your hormone levels, especially estrogen, start to rise. And this shift is going to boost your energy, your mood. It increases your cognitive function, making it a great time for your creative and strategic tasks. So think of this phase as your spring cycle. You're going to come out of winter feeling refreshed and motivated. So it's the perfect time to start new projects, brainstorm ideas, and set goals. And then your brain is going to be more open to learning during this time as well. So when it's possible, try scheduling any training sessions or courses or activities that require a lot of mental energy. So if you are in school, this is the time that you're going to be doing those heavy study sessions and memorizing sessions to really retain that material. It's also a great phase for problem solving and planning out your month ahead. And anything that requires a lot of focus you want to do during your follicular phase. Follicular and focus. So the tricky part is that we tend to want to plan the month ahead at either the beginning of the month or end of the month. And obviously, it's not always going to fall during your follicular phase. And that's where our cycles and our productivity are going to collide. We're going to use these predictive states to kind of plan, and we're going to talk about that a little later towards the end. So your productivity tip for this phase is you're going to use this high energy period to knock out most of your challenging tasks. So consider batch working similar tasks to get your momentum going. And if you've been putting off any big projects, then now is the time to get those started. Your next phase is going to be the ovulatory phase, which is typically days 15 to 17. This is when you're ovulating. It usually lasts about 3 to 5 days. And then during this time, your estrogen is going to peak. And then you might experience a rise in testosterone as well. So it's going to make you feel more energized and more social and confident. So think of this as your summer phase, right? It is hot girl summertime. You are ready to do your outward facing tasks. And this is the time that you're going to schedule presentations and meetings and do your collaborative work. And you're likely to feel more communicative and outgoing. So this is a great time for networking and public speaking or leading team projects. And really, if you think about it, it makes sense, right? When you are ovulating, naturally, we are putting on a show because in nature, we're trying to find a mate or get your mate. So you're naturally going to be more ready and out there and confident to get some. So since your energy is at its peak, it's going to be a good opportunity to engage in more physical activities, or you can take on fitness challenges at this time too, because this is going to be a peak time for fitness activities as well. So your productivity tip during this phase is to maximize your scheduling tasks that require a lot of interaction and social engagement, and then make the most of that natural confidence boost that you're going to get so that you can handle any difficult conversations or negotiate any deals. And then finally, the luteal phase is your last phase. It's going to span the last 10 to 14 days of your cycle. And after ovulation, your hormone levels are going to decrease again, especially if no pregnancy occurs, which is going to lead to more fatigue and moodiness. And then as you get closer to your next period. So think of this phase as your autumn phase. It's time to wind down and wrap up. You're getting ready to go right back into that winter cycle where you're going to be introspective and cozy again. So during this phase, your body's preparing for the menstrual cycle to start again. So your focus, like I said, goes inward. This is a good time to complete anything you've already started, get organized for your next cycle. You will probably find that detail-oriented tasks or admin work are going to be a little easier to manage during this phase. And as you get closer to your period, this is a great time to make space for self-care. So if you're feeling more sensitive or irritable, you can definitely take this time to scale back on those social activities and then spend some time alone working on your self-care and just taking care of you. And then my productivity tip for this phase is going to be trying to do time blocking so you can time block your day in advance and then balance your work with breaks and then use shorter work periods followed by longer breaks, especially when you get closer to the end of this phase and closer to your menstrual cycle. You can make those work cycles shorter and then make your breaks longer. So set your boundaries, listen to your body. Whenever you feel like you need to slow down, you definitely want to slow down or you're going to start feeling overwhelmed during this phase. So hopefully you have been able to follow along so far and you can pinpoint exactly where you are in your cycle right now. If you are using a period tracker app, that can also help you in the process. So now that we've covered each phase of the monthly cycle, let's layer in the daily energy cycle to create that holistic approach to productivity. So by aligning both the monthly and the daily rhythms, we're going to set you up for maximum focus and efficiency without thinking too hard about it and pushing yourself to burnout. And to make the most of your daily circadian rhythm, you're going to want to adjust your daily schedule based on which phase of your menstrual cycle you're in. So let's walk through what that might look during each phase. During your menstrual phase, your energy is going to be at its lowest. So in the morning, you're going to aim for slower and lighter tasks that don't require a lot of mental energy. Maybe some journaling, reading, and organizing. You're going to take advantage of your light mood to do some reflection and plan for the month. So around midday, that's usually when our energy dips, but during this time, it might dip a little more and you might even feel a little more sluggish. So you want to allow for a longer break, and this will, be a good time for gentle stretching exercises or even a nap if you have the flexibility to take naps during the day. Then in the afternoon, you can get back into lighter tasks again, organize your inbox, updating spreadsheets. If you have to take meetings, make sure they're low pressure meetings, and then wrap up your day with some reflective activities like reviewing goals or doing brain dumps at the end of the day to get your mind completely cleared out. So exercises, again, during this phase, you want to focus on light yoga and stretching and walking, especially if you are prone to cramping, menstrual cramping. You don't want to, and you probably don't feel like doing anything strenuous. Light walking, very light Pilates if you really want to get a workout in, and light stretching. Those are going to be your best exercises during this part of your cycle. So if we're looking at a real world example, think about if you have an upcoming project or a presentation. During this phase, instead of doing the heavy thinking, you're going to want to plan ahead. And during your menstrual phase, you're going to focus on maybe just outlining the project or breaking it up into smaller tasks so you know exactly what you will be able to focus on. And then you can save the more intense work for when your energy picks up later on during your follicular phase. Again, this is not going to be very helpful if you procrastinate. So you're going to have to plan ahead with this if you have certain launch periods or projects that you are working on. In the follicular phase, your energy is going to be starting to rise. So this is the time that you're going to schedule those high focus tasks. In the morning, you can tackle complex or creative work like writing or brainstorming. Your mind is actually open to more new ideas during this time, so take advantage of that creative burst you might get. During lunchtime, you're still going to get a dip, but it won't be as heavy as your menstrual phase. And then you can use that time for a break, go for a walk, listen to a podcast, or do something that energizes you. And then in the afternoon, you're going to dip back into your work, focus on tasks that require problem solving or strategic thinking. And then as the day winds down, you can wrap up with admin work or prepare for the next day. Your exercise during this cycle is going to be strength training, cardio, HIIT workouts. You are going to get more energy, so you can definitely kick up the exercises during this time and mix it up. Back to our real world example, if you're doing a project or launching a new product, the follicular phase is going to be the time that you want to create that content, plan your marketing strategy, or map out your launch timeline. Next, during your ovulatory phase, you're going to be at peak energy. So again, we're going to use this time for doing more outward and social activities. So your daily events during this time are going to be a little more energized. Your morning can be more high-stake presentations or meetings or networking events. If you have those high-powered meetings, that's a great time to take these, is during your ovulatory phase. Basically anything that requires you to be on, because you'll naturally have more confidence and enthusiasm. So you definitely want to utilize that feeling of just being on. In the early afternoon, you're going to feel an energy dip slightly, but you can use these times for shorter meetings or activities that keep you moving but don't demand too much mental focus. And then late afternoon, you're still going to want to get some social tasks in, wrap up your work from the morning. Try to avoid winding down too quickly though, because you're still going to feel some of that energy in the early evening. You're going to get those peaks in the evening, but you might feel it even more during your ovulatory phase. So you can take advantage of this by hitting your workouts in the evening or going to social events. And the exercise during this phase, you're going to have high energy workouts, group fitness classes, plyometrics, still up in those high energy exercises. So you can take advantage of that while you still feel great. So back to our real world example, if you've been wanting a good time to pitch a big idea or attend a networking event, this is going to be the time to do it because you're going to be more persuasive and charismatic. So you definitely want to take advantage during the ovulation phase. And lastly, the luteal phase, your energy is going to start to decrease. So in the mornings, you're going to focus on completing tasks that you've already started. You don't want to do anything new here because you just won't have the mental capacity for it. So things that you've already started and your brain already knows what's happening, use this time for detailed oriented work that's going to require concentration, but not something that's overly taxing, like editing or maybe data analysis. And then as your energy dips in the afternoon, you can take longer breaks. Now's the time to incorporate self-care. This might be a good time to do less demanding work like organizing files. And then in the late afternoon, you're going to continue working on your tasks that require less mental effort. And then as you get closer to the end of the day, you can start preparing to wind down. Remember, you're going into your next menstrual phase, so you're probably going to feel less energy as your luteal phase comes to a close towards the end. So this is a good time for making to-do lists, setting goals for your next cycle, doing light admin work. And then as far as exercise goes, you want to do moderate strength training and like steady state cardio, low intensity Pilates. So think of it as you're going down the curve now. Your exercise is not going to be so high and upbeat. You're not all the way down to like a light stroll, but you're somewhere in the middle. You can still handle some things, but you're not going to want to push it. All right. So now that we've got the monthly energy cycles, and then we've got the daily cycles and how we can layer those together, the goal is going to be to set your day up in a way that feels natural and allows you to be productive without forcing yourself to push through periods of low energy. Because the last thing you want to do is, now it's your menstrual cycle and you're in the middle of a product launch. Like, that is definitely going to be counterproductive. Now, obviously, I want to address the elephant in the room. Your cycle will not always align with your events naturally. So you might very well be in your menstrual phase when you have to give a presentation for work, and there's no way around it. But I think if you are aware that you might not be fully on your game and you can plan ahead, then you can prep everything you need for that project or that presentation ahead of time during your most energetic moments, like your follicular phase or your ovulatory phase. And then when your menstrual phase comes up and the project is to be presented, you'll be ready to go, even though you feel run down. Everything's already done. All right, I know this is a lot of information and we are in the home stretch. Let's get into some practical tips for tracking and then actually implementing this into your life. So the goal is to make tracking your cycles simple and effortless so you can adjust your schedule without adding a ton of extra steps to your day. Because again, we're trying to keep this simple. We don't want to be add another level of stress into it. That is not the point of this. This is actually trying to do the opposite. We want to have you be more aware of your cycle so that you can be less stressed at the end of the day. Now, you don't want to jump right into this and just wing it and, say, oh, today I feel tired, or I feel really energetic today, so this is what I'm going with. You have to initially track how you're feeling. And I know tracking is not the most fun thing to do, but once you get a hang of how your cycle works and how your energy cycles work, it's going to be so much more rewarding. And then you'll be able to notice those patterns in your mood and your physical energy, and then ultimately your productivity. So the first thing I want you to do is use a period tracking app. There's a ton of apps out there. Clue and Flow, I have used both of those. Even your Apple Health has period tracking in it, so you could definitely use that as well. And any of these apps are going to allow you to track your cycle length, the symptoms, the mood, even your energy levels. So start by logging when your period begins and ends at the basic level. And then you can also track any symptoms or mood changes you notice if you really wanted to get like granular with it. So over time, you're going to see those patterns emerge. And then the next thing you want to do is track your daily energy levels. This part doesn't have to be complicated either. Like I said, you can track your energy levels in your tracking app if you're using one of those. I did create an energy mapping worksheet for you, so you can track it in that. If you like pen and paper, you can print it out. And it can be as simple as rating your energy levels from 1 to 10 in the morning and in the middle of the day and then in the evening. So then you'll kind of be able to get a gauge of how your energy flows throughout the day. I will put all of the links to everything I've mentioned down in the show notes. So if you're looking for something specific, definitely check those out. All right, the third thing you want to do is plan your weekly and monthly based on your cycles. So when planning your month, you're going to map out your major tasks first based on your menstrual cycle. So for instance, when you want to do scheduling or brainstorming sessions, or you're going to do some creativity sessions or big meetings, then those are going to be during your follicular and ovulatory phases when your energy is higher. Then you're going to leave the more routine and detail-oriented work for the luteal phase, and then your very light tasks or your reflection for your menstrual phase. So for your weekly planning, you're going to use your daily energy tracking to decide which tasks to do on which days. So if you know you tend to have a midweek energy dip during the luteal phase, then you're going to schedule lighter work or more breaks on those days. And then the last thing you want to do is sync your nutrition and exercise as well. So you want to adjust your meal plans and your workouts according to your phases. Now, nutrition is a whole separate thing, right? You can actually eat foods according to your cycle. I am not going to go into that here, not for this episode, because we'll be here for 10 hours. This episode is already very long. So you can, for example, you could increase your intake of iron-rich foods during your menstrual phase. That would help with your energy, or focus on light exercises like yoga or walking. So incorporating all of that nutrition and exercise is going to be pretty much the ultimate planning for you. So the key takeaway here is to start small, make adjustments as you go, and then even if you just begin by tracking your period and then rating your energy levels for a month, you are going to start seeing how much insight you can gain just from that. So the more consistently you track, the better you'll get at predicting what's happening with your body, and then you'll be able to align them better with your schedule and ultimately better productivity. All right. So I know this was a lot. I encourage you to listen to this episode again, save it, take notes, whatever works for you, and then keep in mind that this doesn't have to be all or nothing. If you find yourself understanding your daily energy cycle and you were like, yes, Miranda, I've got the daily down, but you are having a hard time nailing down how you feel with your menstrual fluctuations, don't get rid of the entire process. Take one segment at a time. Maybe you focus on doing just the exercises during your specific phases or nutrition, and then see how you feel. And then you can manage those with your daily circadian rhythm until you start to see more patterns in your cycle. Now, that being said, if you have a regular cycle or your energy levels fluctuate in ways that don't seem to follow a pattern, that's totally fine. This can be due to stress or health conditions, or if your lifestyle changes, or maybe you just have an irregular cycle. You know, they aren't always predictable. Sometimes they're 28 days, sometimes they're 35. Like I said, mine is 27. It's consistently 27 days. Occasionally, it'll be 28. Like, it is so regular. But if you do have an irregular cycle, here's how you can navigate that. Focus more on your daily tracking rather than strictly following your menstrual phase guidelines, but you can still make informed decisions about when to push and when to rest, and you'll still feel those dips and changes. Because, of course, as you get closer or further away from your menstrual cycle, you definitely will feel those changes in your body. And if you find yourself needing to rest a bit more than normal, then have a list of low energy tasks that you always need to do that you can swap in when you're just not feeling it, like clearing out your emails or responding to social media messages. All right. So I'm going to wrap it up here. This is such a big topic that I could go in depth even more into each section, but I'll go ahead and drop some more resources in the show notes for you if you would really like to go deeper. I may also break this up into different episodes in the future just to pull some out so we can go in a little more. This was a very high level, but I hope that you were able to get a little bit of granular information from this, because I feel like I barely touched the surface, which is so funny to say because this is one of my longer episodes. But I love you. I hope this helps you. And if you know someone that might benefit from this episode, please share it with them. Until next time, keep it simple, keep it fun, and keep it productive. Next time on Holistic Productivity, get productive with me. We're going to do our very first Get Productive with Me session where we can co-work together.